Something's happening tonight straight out of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, an old-fashioned talking filibuster. Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky has had the floor since 11:47 this morning, trying to block a vote on President Obama's nominee for CIA director with nothing more than his vocal cords. He's keeping hydrated, he's eating candy, and voicing his objection to the administration's use of killer drones. The odd thing is that under current Senate rules, Senator Paul doesn't have to be talking to maintain the filibuster, and he himself acknowledges that when it comes time for a vote to break the filibuster, possibly on Friday, chances are he'll lose. So what exactly is he doing? Let's talk about that. Let's hope we won't be filibustering here. Republican consultant joining us, Margaret Hoover, Newsweek special correspondent and Daily Beast editor Peter Beinart, and chief political analyst Gloria Borger. Gloria, let me start with you. Some liberal senators sounded almost happy with what Senator Paul is doing. The bigger issue that he's pushing on, the administration's policy on drones or lack of transparency, is controversial with people on both sides of the aisle.
It is, and they were happy to hear him talk about it. I mean, this filibuster, Mr. Paul Goes to Washington, is all about getting attention because he knows he's not going to stop the nomination of John Brennan to head the CIA. So he's trying to place attention on this issue of drones and the question of whether drones can actually be used in this country, potentially on an American citizen. I mean, he clearly believes it's unconstitutional and illegal, and he asked the Attorney General for a letter about it, and the Attorney General ruled it out, but not completely unequivocally.
He said hypothetically, given a 9/11 type situation, the military might be able to do that.
That's right. And so this is a question about how far is the Attorney General willing to go? How far is the President willing to go? And there's also another question here that liberals agree with Rand Paul on, and that's a question of transparency. The President has said he's going to talk about that again, which is how much do we in the American public, how much should we know about the use of drones?
Peter, what do you make of the filibuster?
I think it's terrific. You know, first of all, this is what a filibuster is supposed to be. We have created this kind of virtual filibuster where you just say, I filibuster, and then you go and have dinner, right? A filibuster is supposed to be hard. You're supposed to have some cost to you. This is what this guy's doing. It's on a matter of principle, not party. He says Bush is continuing, Obama is continuing Bush's policies, which are right, and he's doing it on the right subject, which is this is the guy who's actually nominated to head the CIA. It's not like the Republicans who were threatening to filibuster Hagel because of Benghazi, which Hagel had nothing to do about. And he's shaming liberals. I say this as a liberal. He's shaming us into saying we have to make sure we don't put our partisanship ahead of our own concern about centralized government power and what the Obama administration is doing. And I think he's setting a really good example.
It's been going on for more than 8 hours. Just for people who have not heard, let's just hear what he's talking about, to say now, randomly. Let's just drop in and listen to hear what he's saying.
I think once he gets into the FBI, the ludicrous nature of what he's asserting will really be, I think, paramount. I can't imagine that he can argue at that point that we're not going to obey the Bill of Rights with the FBI because we already do with the FBI. So many of the answers are pretty simple here and pretty easy, and I just can't imagine why he's resisting doing this.
Right now, also at the Jefferson Hotel, where President Obama has been meeting with some Republican senators. I understand it looks like the senators, some have been leaving the dinner. Appears to be over. These things both going on in different parts of Washington. Margaret, what do you make of it?
Well, the filibuster, I can't believe Peter and I actually agree on it. It's a good old-fashioned filibuster. It's not Strom Thurmond reading from Webster's dictionary. It's actually a well-prepared senator making reasoned arguments.
Well, there were some tweets being read earlier while he was taking a bathroom break.
But for the most part, everything he's saying is substantive, thoughtful, discursive. He's actually making his case for the point of his filibuster, which is there a constitutional question to the kill list that President Obama is employing abroad? Can he do that on American citizens who are not an imminent threat to American security here in the United States? That's a real question.
And not just President Obama. Can any U.S. president kill an American citizen at home using drones?
Unilaterally, or should there be some process of balance and checks and balances on that process?
It is an important question. I mean, this is obviously an important question.
Beyond that, I mean, the drones are an important question. Look, President Obama's moved towards drones because they're cheap. This is what we do when we as a country don't want to expend the blood and treasure to go invading countries anymore. That's why it's attractive to him. But with it comes really, really big concerns about this should not be, I don't care which president you are, whether you're a president of a party that you like, or a president should not be invested with this much power to make these decisions without oversight. And I think Ron Paul is actually not even going far enough in the questions he's asking.
And Ron Wyden's right there with him.
I think the president and the White House have sort of been caught off guard by this. I don't think they really understood what kind of an issue this would be for John Brennan during his confirmation fight. And I think this whole issue of transparency, and this is sort of ironic coming from a president who, when he was a senator, always called for transparency, who's a constitutional scholar himself. I think in a way they've created this problem for themselves because they did not lift the veil for people on the Intelligence Committee about how they made the decision to use drones. And so now they're going to have to go back at it and say, you know what, we were wrong and we need to be more transparent about it to people we trust in the Congress.
Well, you're going to start to see, too, you've got Ron Wyden there, a Democrat from Oregon, who joined the filibuster along with other Republicans. It's technically a bipartisan filibuster now. What happens in a second administration of a re-elected president is the high watermark of President Obama's influence is right now. Eventually, the coalition on the left and the right begins to fray. So what you see now is President Obama also, concurrent to this, having dinner with Republicans for the first time in a couple years. I think that is indicative of clearly a new tact and hopefully a recognition that President Obama knows it's in his court to try to get some sort of legacy legislation through now.
Peter, Lindsey Graham earlier was saying, look, this is a sign of just how divided the country is, that the fact that President Obama is having dinner with some Republicans is a major news story.
Right, and it's a sign that the Obama administration has realized that just because the Republicans are losing the fight over the so-called sequester, he can be losing too, and he has further to go down in the polls.
Because his poll numbers are higher than the Republicans.
Because his poll numbers are much higher, but they have gone.
Yeah, but his numbers are.
They have gone down, and so I think he realizes that his strategy of trying to force a complete capitulation is not working.
But his numbers are heading in the wrong direction. If you look at the Washington Post ABC poll today by a 2-to-1 margin, people say they approve the sequester generally, these forced spending cuts, while they don't approve the military cuts. And by the way, the president has absolutely nothing to lose by having dinner with these people, because even if it doesn't work, he can tell the American public, I tried it. It didn't work. So I'm doing it. And that's what the American public wants to see.
And he's certainly hoping just to peel away whatever Republicans he can. I mean, he's not hoping to change.
By the way, he's got to work on Democrats, too, though. Right. I mean, this is a president who doesn't have a great track record with Democrats in the Senate either. So
look at this. Look at the senators. New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. These are blue states where Obama feels like he can put a little bit of pressure on these guys to compromise.
But you know, Senator Lindsey Graham came up with the invite list. And the invite list is not a bunch of moderates. The invite
there are
list
no moderates left in the Republican Party. This is what passes for moderates.
These are conservative Republicans, some of his biggest critics. And what the president's going to get from them is, okay, if you want a grand bargain, here's what you need to do for us. And that's what Lindsey Graham and John McCain.
Well, it already looks like it's not a late dinner because it looks like a bunch of them already left. So, Gloria Borger, appreciate it. Margaret Hoover, Peter Beinart as well.